welcome. Nice to have you with us as we kick off a broadcast day on this day after Christmas 2017. And welcome, folks. And nice to have you with us. I'm sure we're glad the grind, and that's the key word of the holiday, is concluded. I know I am. Boy, oh boy, it's a rough 3 days. Kids, family, oh my goodness. And the games didn't really help on Monday night, but here we are now as we talked about what's going on as far as the world of sports is concerned on the great SiriusXM 82. Warren Gross is in today, and Ray Martell. Steve was annoyed that Bill Zimmerman left him with the backup crew, but we'll make sure we get it. He didn't like Gross at all, but we'll make sure we get it organized. Warren's our man this afternoon, and he'll keep us moving and humming on this Monday, on this Tuesday show. 888 Mad Dog 6, I should say. It is Tuesday, right? Tuesday, the 26th. 888 Mad Dog 6 on the great SiriusXM 82. Lots to do today. Peter King will be on his normal spot. Move him up a little earlier at 3:30, and then of course we'll talk to our good buddy today, Ira. Not going to be on tomorrow, so we put Ira on today, and he at 5. So we have a show today and a show Friday of this week as we take you home here with the NFL and all the good things going on as far as the National Football League is concerned. I'll start the show, obviously, with football, but I'm going to start it in a different way, and we'll get our first break in, then I'll come back and analyze some of the ball games from Sunday afternoon. And I'll tell you, give the National Football League credit. They did a very, very good job with their scheduling as far as Week 17 is concerned. Here it is. I was spending all our free time last week trying to figure out how they're going to make sure that NBC got taken care of in the last week of the year, finding them a game, and how it would not affect, the competitive balance of a particular division or a race. In other words, you can't have the Saints play at 1, Carolina or Atlanta play at 8, because if the Saints won, Carolina wouldn't try against the Falcons 7 hours later, treated as a bye week, which would be certainly unfair to the other teams battling Atlanta, this case Seattle, for the division or for a wild card, and it would sort of be unfair for the Saints, who might have to play the Panthers the next week, and yet the Panthers would use that Week 17 as sort of a bye week, while the Saints had to bust their rear ends to win at Tampa to get this to win the division, only because they played first and Carolina played second. So the NFL eliminated that issue, and they moved really an historic precedent. There has not been a night game to wrap up the NFL regular season since 1977. Think about that for a second. Since 1977, there's either been Monday night games or there have been Sunday night games to wrap up the regular season portion of the NFL schedule. They used to have the Monday Night Football on ESPN be the last game. They got off that because they didn't think it was fair for a team to, play a Monday night game and then have one day off, have one less day off getting ready for a playoff game if that team happened to be a playoff team. And they were right about that. So ESPN no longer got that last Monday night game. And in replace of that, ESPN got the 2 games on the first week of the year, that doubleheader, which is a doozer and a rough one for ESPN to sell. That second game's always a hard game. So that was San Diego, Denver this year. So that's or Chargers, Denver. So that's the last time that we've had a scenario that we're going to have this week where we have no football after 8 o'clock on Sunday night. And actually, I think this year it's a break because it's New Year's Eve. Hard to get into the games anyway. But, still, if it was Carolina or Atlanta, in and when you're in and the loser's out and the winner's home, well, then you would have sat there, a winner's home free for the postseason, well, then they would have had a game. But NBC agreed to bypass the week 17. NBC does not get a 4 o'clock game as a replacement this week, and NBC will have a make-good sometime within the next 5 years. Got that today from the NFL. Sometime within the next 5 years, NBC will get an extra game to make up for the game they did not get this coming weekend. But obviously, the NFL did the right thing, and NBC, I think, was accommodating for a variety of reasons. One, there's no great game. Two, it's New Year's Eve. It's not a great viewing night. We've learned that with the college football semifinals, which was a disaster when they were on New Year's Eve, and this year, they get a break. They're on New Year's Day. So from that perspective, I think really everybody's happy, except maybe Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, who can't figure out, just has no feel of competitive balance, who's been moaning and grunting all day today about how he's got to play a game at 4:25 and how that affects his fandom, whether they come out to watch the game on New Year's Eve. Now, I did not realize that I guess they've had trouble at the gate this year, and there's been a lot of empty seats with the Ravens. Part of that is they're a very unappealing team. Maybe it's got something to do with the kneeling. I don't know enough about the Raven players who did it early in the year and who did not. But regardless, Harbaugh's all annoyed. How dare they making us change our season ticket plan, blah, blah, blah. Well, hold on now. What do you want the NFL to do? The Chargers have a home game, and they're in the mix for that last wild card spot with Buffalo, with the Ravens, and with Tennessee. And since the Chargers are playing L.A., John, not in Charlotte, they have to sit there and they got to play. You can't ask their fan base to go to games at 10 a.m. So as a result, the Chargers have to play at 4. And if you're going to make sure that everybody, has to line them up and start the game with the same intensity as far as postseason aspirations are concerned, if there's one team that's in your race that plays late, you got to play late too. That's the right thing to do. So this year, for the first time ever, no football game on at night, week 17 since 1977. And then number 2, there are 9 4:00 games, which makes Steve Torrey happy for his Sunday drive, where there's really nothing going on at 1. Isn't that weird? I mean, the only thing you got going on at 1 this week in the NFL is the Patriots trying to beat the Jets to make sure they get the 1 seed over Pittsburgh, who should beat the Browns. I mean, outside of that, there is nothing at 1 o'clock. That last aspect of 1 o'clock was eliminated when Philadelphia won last night and clinched the 1 seed in the NFC. Now, if Philadelphia had lost last night, and by golly, they should have, if Philadelphia had lost last night, well, then the Philadelphia-Minnesota thing would be up for grabs, and the Vikings and Eagles would have to play it out at 1 o'clock on Sunday. But because the Eagles clinched the 1 seed, there is nothing at 1 o'clock. I've never seen that in my life. 7 games at 1 o'clock on Sunday where there's actually nothing happening. I mean, outside of the Patriots making sure they beat the Jets. That's it. I mean, Jacksonville's locked in as the 3 seed. Kansas City's locked in as the 4 seed. Pittsburgh and New England will figure out who's the 1 and the 2. Most likely Patriots at 1 because they should beat the Jets. So, I mean, there's really, and then, of course, 5 and 6 we wait and see. Looks like it'd be the Ravens and Tennessee, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays itself out. But think about that for a second. Everything of note this week is at 4:25. Isn't that hard to believe? Everything at note is at 4:25. And give the NFL credit. The NBA doesn't do this. The NBA makes series end on a Friday night, and the next series begins on Sunday for television purposes. Baseball maneuvers as far as getting the best teams in prime time. How about that Dodger National Series a couple years ago when they began games at 11 a.m. in L.A. to accommodate, not that much, 1 o'clock in L.A. to accommodate the Cubs in prime time. I mean, the NFL doesn't do that. The NFL is doing this the proper way. Everybody who's got implications from the postseason play at the same time. And that is the way you do it. And because of that, there was not a late game that they can give NBC at 8 o'clock. And they weren't going to move all those other games to 8 o'clock like Seattle, like Tampa and New Orleans just to accommodate NBC. And that's not fair to Fox and CBS anyway. So from that standpoint, everything is done properly. And there's no Sunday night game on NBC. That's the first thing we need to do today. The second thing, I will break down where we stand, getting ready for the last game of the season in the National Football League. It's great to have you with us. Phone calls in a sec. 888 Mad Dog 6 on a great SiriusXM 82. Back after this.